Hello, Wolf Dieter. Welcome to this Fleet Europe video podcast. How are you doing and what's up for your company, Arthur D. Little?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here again with you and your audience. And thanks for asking. We are doing well. You know, we are the oldest management consultancy worldwide and gone through many crises. And in each crisis, we observe that the help that our clients need is massively different from that in normal times. And in this crisis, if you want to say, we work on many projects for diversification of mobility types. We help OEMs and other firms to readjust their supply chains. And we are working a lot with mobility players and suppliers on securing their profitability.
Okay, then
so there's a lot to do
for this interview. Well, I would like to have your thoughts on the current crisis situation for fleet and automotive, or better said, the series of challenging events. But let's start with the challenge. Corporate fleet managers are confronted since 1 year or so with the vehicle delivery challenge. What is the exact issue?
Yeah, there is not actually only one. There are quite some issues behind, and they overlap. And the key is probably still the chip crisis, which started actually over 3 years ago with the cryptocurrency mining leading to microelectronics shortages, leading the US government to starting sanctions, leading to first bulk orders on the remaining chips. And then where it became obvious in 2020, we had a series of incidents. Corona led to order reductions, to closures in the chip foundries, and the chip production was cut down significantly. But as a counter effect of Corona, there was an explosion of demand for chips coming from consumer products, home office products, and all this stuff, leading to a shortage and a reallocation of production volume. And when in summer the clients ordered more vehicles again, the remaining chip volumes were already allocated to other electronics companies. And on top of that, in 2021, we had the power blackouts damaging the fabs in Texas. And in the Renesas fab in Japan, there was a huge fire. And end of 21, there was the zero COVID lockdowns in China. So this basically led to a huge shortage. And the big picture then includes massive increase of the microchip demand versus OEMs who are not really in a buying power position, and a series of supply shortages.
Yeah, so there is a conflict, of course. Is that conflict and so the challenge, is that the same for all car manufacturers, or are some OEMs less impacted than others?
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of unit production, not talking about the partly extremely nice profitability, but in terms of unit production, we can say that basically almost all manufacturers are impacted, and they need to prioritize their production. I would say especially those manufacturers which are of main relevance for corporate fleets, higher position cars, a bunch of electronics, and so on. Volkswagen, for example, they have recently announced an order step for plug-in hybrids, which are important for many fleet managers. BMW, they also have problems, but they are also having some direct delivery agreements, which lets them stand a bit better than, for example, Mercedes. For some Mercedes, you have to wait longer than a year. You could not order touch screens for a while, and so on. Ford started to take out features out of their vehicles to be able to serve customer orders. Tesla is a bit better off because they have managed their chip supply better than others, but also they have been reported to apply some tricks, like taking out a second steering ECU and stuff. And Toyota had improved their supply chains already after the tsunami, so they are affected, but a bit better off as well. So it's different, and it's case by case.
Okay, so next to the chip shortage, there is of course also the natural resource crisis. Now, all these events are global challenges that go beyond the automotive. When can we expect a recovery?
Yeah, well, looking into that, I think, first of all, you need to look to the natural resource crisis that has more risk than the current chip crisis.
Okay.
See, I'm from Germany and we have a huge economy, but only the two largest companies or plants stand for 15% of the German natural gas consumption. And BASF as a company is using gas also as a resource product for their products. Means the danger that if they cannot produce anymore, when they don't get natural gas is real. And they are a big automotive player and a big player beyond. So when commodities go through the roof further, price-wise, many smaller companies will fail, and that can harm supply chains everywhere. And regarding timing, unclear. We're almost trained to cope with the current situation. And I would say the main risk now is potentially the conflict between China and Taiwan, completely unpredictable. And the biggest semiconductor fabs are standing in Taiwan.
Okay. And then, of course, there is also the war in the Ukraine and the related energy crisis. What is the consequence and the outlook there for corporate fleets?
Well, first of all, the west of the Ukraine stands for a huge amount of wiring harness production. And many of those are missing now or are delayed in the European OEM plants. That has a huge impact. And since the war started, there has still been supply from the Ukraine, but it's complicated. And on wiring harnesses, you have two issues. Issue number one is there is no chance to leave it out of the car because it's not an option. It's one of the essential modules of a car. And then the Ukraine is one of the biggest producers of neon gas, which is a byproduct of steel production. And you need it for the lasers in lithographics machines. And that means that the Russian invasion will probably cut like half of the global neon production. We do not yet have calculated the impact, but it may have another big impact on the chip production.
Okay, so that's not the best outlook, of course. Now we are going to try to end on a positive note. When do you think will we go back to normal, and what can fleet managers and their businesses do to handle the current situation?
Yeah, well, the truth is it cannot be predicted now. We do not have a crystal ball, and we have a couple of key factors. So the chip availability issue is a topic that will last well into 2023. Because you need 3 years to ramp up a fab, and that takes time. And so we are not through that. Second, we have the war in the Ukraine, of which we do not know how long it will take. Then we talked about China, Taiwan. It's unpredictable what happens there. And we are expecting new COVID waves. So I would personally advise to prepare for a situation that continues. And that means for fleet managers to think about further prolonging holding periods, if that is possible, to adapt policies even more towards electric and less CO2 vehicles, because they are prioritized on the manufacturing of the manufacturers, to reduce vehicle options and broaden the scope of brands to have more selection, and to order earlier. Sounds weird, but order earlier where possible. Or perhaps this is also a right time to redefine mobility concepts that might be something we might want to consider now as well.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that in the upcoming months we will need to talk again. Thank you very much for your time with us, Wolf Dieter, and
thank you, Stephen.
To Fleet Europe, of course, for more insights on how to master crisis situations in fleet and mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.